Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been an interview I have been looking forward to so long. This young lady has been like just kind of like a light, like we've been orbiting around each other. I don't know which one is the sun and the moon, but we've been orbiting around each other. And I see she's the brighter one. She's the sun part of this equation. So I'd love to welcome, without any further ado, Nettie to our God and Gig show. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, Alan, thank you so much. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing because again, I finally got you on the show. I finally, after years and years of us talking, and this is the hard part with every interview I do. I have to make sure it doesn't sound like just nobody else is listening. I mean, I would just want to talk to you and just say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And we just spend an hour, and then be like, "Oh gosh, wait, there's 1,000 people." They're like, "Well, who is this person?"
Right.
So before we get into it and start catching up, let's go ahead and give you the 30-second elevators pitch and let us know, who you are, what you do, and just why we should be so interested in the next 60 minutes.
Well, thank you. I'm NEDY. I'm an inspirational pop artist and also the president and founder of the anti-bullying nonprofit called Friends Forever Club, based out of Franklin, Tennessee. And yeah, I've been looking forward to our interview and just like you said, Alan, we've been talking on and off, just remaining in contact for at least a couple years now. Before I moved actually out to Nashville, I remember us talking and all that. So yeah, that's kind of my elevator pitch. I have an anti-bullying, some people have referred to it as an anthem called Made to Be, and I really recently released the remix, getting ready to release the music video for that. And yeah, I have some more things on the way, but we'll get to that.
Exactly. But see, that's what I love about, because I think one of the most important things and why I don't script these interviews is because it's all about story and narrative and story, songwriting, creative life, whatever you want to call it. It's all about just figuring out where do you go from here. So now we heard where you are, right? Now we got to figure out how you got here.
Yeah.
Like, how did you end up where you have this wonderful platform? I am honestly, I literally, this is, I don't script this again. I literally just looked up the video because I don't remember if I had watched the official video.
Oh, uh-huh.
And I'm like almost in tears. Like, you
Wow.
guys have, I'm going to put a link in the show notes. Please go watch the video of Made to Be, because it hits exactly where I know we're going to get you. But before we get to the end stuff, let's go back to the beginning. Talk a little bit about just the fact that as a musician, as a singer, as a songwriter, we all have that one moment. And so I want to take you back. I read a little bit of the bio. Take me back to 8 years old, 7 years old. What was that original moment that you started to say, hey, you know what, this music thing, this singing thing, this might be for me, or something at least that I'm interested in? How did that even start?
Well, I was about, I would say, like 14, and I hadn't known exactly. So I wasn't even a singer. I took voice lessons and I learned how to sing. And but I remember being 14, about 14, learning how to play guitar, and just feeling like before I had ever experienced the stage, feeling like being on stage would feel right and would be right to me. So it's kind of like I don't know, like a prophecy, or like I could just describe it as like a feeling. Like I just felt like it would make sense. And so fast forward, the first time I was kind of a late bloomer. I didn't get on stage until I was 21.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I was just playing guitar. My friend had asked me if I wanted to play some electric guitar. Like it was mostly just, she said, just make up whatever you want. And she was the choreographer for a dance show at the college that I was going to. So there was a bunch of dancers on stage and they had like a choreographed set, and there was a piano player, and she kind of like slowly asked me to be a part of it. Like she's like, yeah, come by the classroom, we're gonna have practice, bring your guitar. And I was like, okay. She didn't even tell me what it was gonna be about. But over the course of the next couple classes, she was like, yeah, would you want to play guitar on stage? And I was like, sure. So I play guitar on stage, this awesome dance recital, and it felt like so right to me. And I was like, I felt like it would feel right, and it felt exactly how I thought it would. And then I learned how to sing, and I started singing, playing that open mics in like LA and Santa Monica, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And I pursued learning how to sing in order to make my dreams of music and being a performer on stage possible. But I would say, yeah, about 14. So 14, 21, finally getting on the stage is when it all happened.
Now that's what's interesting about that is that you said you felt right, right? You started to understand like, hey, you know, a lot of this creative life, as we're about to talk about, is so tough. Is that if
Mm-hmm.
you don't have that why that really connects with you deeply on the inside, basically, you know, once you start seeing the, you know, the inside of the industry, it's fun
Yeah.
on this side. It's fun to be in front of people. It's fun to have people respond to you. And then it's like, oh, wait, I get off the stage. And
Yeah.
so I want to kind of get into, even in terms of that, you know, the learning curve, right? So you just mentioned getting on stage, 14, 21. Like, where were the first instances of learning, like, wait a minute, this is going to take some work. This is going to take, you know what I mean? This, I'm going to have to learn some, either whether it was, you know, business and, or, you know, the performing side. Like, what were some of the first lessons that you realized this is going to take more than just getting on stage?
Yeah, exactly. I would say the very first one would be when I learned how to sing. It's like, oh, this is gonna take some work. I mean, I knew it would take work, and it was so scary. Like, I literally started from not knowing how to sing at all.
So
Low,
no choir practice,
no choir,
no church choir, no
nope,
nothing. Just
nothing.
wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think, like, looking back, but I just had a deep desire in my heart to pursue music and to pursue, like, doing it in front of people. And so I would be like trying to form a band with people, and it just wouldn't work out. So I was like, well, I just have to take it in my own hands. I can't rely on anyone else.
All right.
And so I just took it under my own hands and learned how to sing. That was the first lesson for sure. And like, just thinking this might not work. I don't know if I'm going to be able to sing or like learn how to sing. And I don't even know what kind of voice I'm going to have. Like, even if I can sing on key, like, what does my voice sound like? And then when I started learning how to sing, and that's when I started writing songs, I was like, wow, this like feels so fulfilling in a way greater than I can imagine. That was my first lesson. And I would say business wise, I've learned a lot of lessons business wise for sure. I've gotten ripped off. I've gotten scammed too many times. I haven't kept track of the amount of money, but I've definitely wisened up. But yeah, there's so much to it. Like, as an independent artist, I have to know how to do. And for all of those watching, as an independent artist, you have to be creative and you have to put the content out, but you
Yep.
also have to think within the business, because it is an industry. And it's for Believer, it's more than just an industry. It's a ministry, but you have to have both sides, working in order, unless you have like a mom or a dad who's your manager and they worry about all the business side. But that's not how it happened for me. So definitely still learning lessons for sure.
I love it. And you just mentioned, you know, mom and dad family. I remember, again, this is the part where we're, you know, forgive us listeners and viewers. We're going to kind of like just go into our own little discussion here. I remember a comment you made to me. As you said, we kind of started following. I think I found you on Instagram first. I want to take credit. I think I found you or something like that.
Well, thank you.
But I remember a conversation or a tweet or whatever, or a story, Instagram stories about you going cross country.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, wait a minute, what? You started from what side of the country and you're going where with how much?
Yeah.
So take me back to a little bit of that, because that was, you want to talk about like a leap of faith. Um, you gotta explain to other people and to me like what that was like. What exactly entailed that you pursuing that dream in such a radical way?
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing that up, Alan. It's so cool, like, that we've known each other for so long, that we have been through part of each other's journey for a while. It's kind of like all goes back to God, like put it on my heart to do kind of crazy things. Like, I want to be on stage. Okay, then like I got to learn how to sing if I want to just be able to go, because I was just waiting around for a singer. So learn how to sing is kind of like, what, you're gonna learn how to sing? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And then fast forward some time, I want to further pursue my music career and just be in the midst of opportunities. Okay, then move across the country. And it's just like you said, like a leap of faith. And it's just kind of, I think that's when it's the most challenging. It's like when you really are only relying on God. And
Mhm.
I wouldn't say putting faith in myself, like what I want to do, my dreams, but it's like what God's put on my heart. And all of these, like, so when I learned how to sing, I wasn't a believer. And then I got saved. And when I moved across the country, I had been praying about it for like 4 months. And I know I went on a music missions tour called the Extreme Tour from June 4th to like mid-September. And I think, to backtrack a little bit, in May, when it was at their conference, like that tour has, the Extreme Tour, they have like a conference in May, and then in June they hit the road. So
Yeah.
I went to the conference in May. I had been on that tour a year before for 1 month. And that was my first time in 2018 visiting Nashville. Then a year later, 2019, I visited Nashville again at the conference. The second time that I visited Nashville in 2019 in May at that conference, I went there just to go to the conference. And then after a couple of days of being there, I was like, what if I moved here? Like that idea, you know?
Just
And
seed.
yeah, that seed. And I had already planned on hitting the road with the tour for 4 months. So I was like, I know I'm going to have to move out of my apartment. I'm going to have to find a new day job. So I was going to have to kind of start new anyways, like a clean slate anyways, no matter where I went back to.
Okay.
So it was really like opening the door for me to move to Nashville. And I knew like a small handful of friends. Some of them, us were acquaintances, some of us were kind of friends. So I had prayed about it and really just wanted to make sure that it was something that God was leading me to. Because as believers in this journey, we've done things our own way.
Yep.
And yeah, and it doesn't usually end up being the prettiest picture, although obviously God uses it all for good. So I just want to make sure, like, this is a big situation, this is a big decision. I want to make sure that I'm making the right decision. So I prayed about it for like 4 months, and God just opened doors for me to move to Nashville. So I took a one-way ticket. I flew with my guitar and my suitcase, and then that's it. And I didn't have a car at the time because I had gotten a car accident like a couple months before the tour. Yeah, and yeah, so
It's just, I mean, yeah, like this is where it's like, I said, okay, God, are you trying to are you doing like the Gideon thing? Are you like trying to take away, make it even harder to prove it's you? Like, what is going on here?
yeah, I felt like that sometimes for sure. And then like when I was searching for places to live, I remember I was like in Facebook Marketplace, and this woman had reached out to me, and she was like, "Hey, like I'm renting a room. I haven't posted about it, but I saw you and like wanted to contact you." So long story short, I ended up renting a room from her, and that's where I flew in on October 28th, 2019. I rented a room from her for almost a full year. It was one day short of 1 year. And after that, I had moved into another place in Franklin, which is where I'm based out of now. And that's a whole nother God story. But just God still, it says in the word that without faith, it is impossible to please God.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's what true faith is, when you can't see what's going to happen, but you're putting your trust in whose you are. You're putting your trust in like, okay, I'm seeking the Lord. I'm seeking his face. He's not going to just mislead me and misguide me. So, I definitely, during 2020, or there was a time where I was like, am I still supposed to be here? And then he confirmed it again. And so, yeah, like going back to your question, I just seeking God, and him just really resting that he is my father and he goes before me.
Yeah.
And that he has his hand in everything. So he's going to cover me, even if I stray a little bit, he's going to bring me back, and he's going to show me which way he wants me to go. So I try to keep that in prayer constantly. Just, Lord, lead me and guide me, use me for what you want to use me for.
I love that. And that really takes me to, there are two questions. I'm always going to ADD with these questions, so I have to like make
Yeah,
myself slow down.
sure,
One
sure.
was, you mentioned you just had your suitcase, you're in the plane. So obviously you got this connection with God, but I did want to ask, like, were there any other people that got put in your life to help? You mentioned the lady that helped you with the apartment. Like what other support, if there was a support system of any kind, you know what I mean? Like what were what did God like put people to help confirm things? Was it, even in terms of the music side, not even music, just, just people to help you like navigate a new city? Like, did you see that happen where you had the people as well as both your, your connection with God to help you?
I definitely have like close friends and family members that like support me and like encourage me, and vice versa. But I didn't have anybody like really calling me out to come to Nashville, like a close friend or anything like that. Like I didn't have anyone to say that to me. It just kind of, it's literally just between me and God. And I'm like, I have this continuous desire to pursue music as a career. and ministry at the same time. So I'm just following what makes sense. Like if I really want to make this, sorry, my coffee pot's going on.
Important.
Yeah, if I really want to make this a career, then I need to plant myself
Okay.
in those in that location where it's gonna hire the possibilities and opportunities to make that happen. I gotta do everything on my end.
Yeah.
And yeah, and where I was living in Napa Valley, California, I had a great church family there, a lot of good friends, but it's not where people go to, really excel in their career. So to answer your question, I not really, like, not in Nashville. I didn't really know anybody. I mean, I had a small handful of people that I knew. We had hung out. I had gone on tour with some of them, but we hadn't gotten really close.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just following God really was how I got here.
That's amazing. But the reason I asked was because I think now that you are in Nashville, and I guess now that leads to the second question, which is, how did you find the people? Because now you do have, I think, I'm asking, and as I'm saying it as well,
Right.
the community that you did build. Because what I think a lot of people go through with what you just went through, I'm trying to listen for the person that's like asking the question, hey, I just moved to a new city. As a matter of fact, I got a couple of people in the God and Gifts community. I just got an email from her. Oh my gosh, like God just put that in reminded me, like literally the same story that you just said. Like I'm looking at my emails. She moved to another city with her husband, living with another friend, no jobs. They said, God just told me to move, and I did it. So
Yeah.
literally that person, I hope she's listening now. I'll send her this interview when we're done. What did you do like those first few days and weeks and
Yeah.
months in this new city to actually like get connected and actually, and not feel like you're all by yourself?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I did was, okay, I need to find a job, but I don't have a car. So I drove for Lyft for 1 week. And I just always laugh about it because like I just lasted 1 week driving for Lyft. I was driving in downtown Nashville, and it was
Or your
it was
first, and you didn't know up from down, left from right
nope.
yet.
I was desperate. I was desperate for money. I'm like, well, gotta pay the bills somehow. So I did it for 1 week. I didn't have a car, so it was really hard because they make you like you can rent one of Lyft's cars, but they pay for it, of course, but they charge you so much. So I ended up just paying for the rental.
No money's coming to you. It's like, wait, what's happening in this exchange? This is not working. I'm supposed to get something from this. That's
exactly.
crazy.
I know, so crazy. And it did allow me though to drive to apply for a job. And the first job that I applied to at the Gaylord Opryland Hotel is the job that I got.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yep. So that was another God thing. Within that time, like a week and a half or so, my landlord, the woman that I was renting from, she invited me. She's so sweet. She invited me to go to dinner. She like paid for me. She was so nice. And one day she invited me to meet up with her friend and her friend's family. So I meet up with her friend's family. Long story short, she tells them, yeah, Nedy's looking for a car. She doesn't have a car. And her friend's son, he knows a lot about cars. He's been working on cars for years. He's like, well, I don't mind going with you if you need like an extra pair of eyes and someone who knows what they're looking for when you go for cars.
Yeah.
So that worked out. He went with me to find a car. I found a great car that I still have to this day. It's been extremely reliable. It's a Honda Civic. I love, you gotta love
yep.
Civic. Yeah. So that was all like God just providing for me and paving the way as I went on. So he just gave me that little next step. I took that step just as I went, like, oh, I got to find a job. There's the job. And sometimes there's so much resistance, like I think people, a belief that we may have is like, if God's will, everything's just going to open. If God opens the door, but like, look at Noah, how many years did he go without any rain?
Wow.
When he was
yeah. And nobody believing in him. And that's kind of like why I went there, because I'm thinking you just showed so much faith, that kind of Abraham faith. Now I have an Abraham kind of story too. Like I have my go out without, I don't want, the story is not about me, so I'm not going to tell it, but it's in the book. They can read the book. So,
yeah.
So just that whole thing about, hey, I have to step out, and then, but I do think God then puts the people to
Yeah.
confirm the purpose or to allow you to do the purpose. So every time he steps in, like Joshua, it's like, hey, Joshua, go out to this. Yeah, but eventually I'm going to give you a Caleb, or eventually for your
Mhm.
case, and I'm going to give you management. I'm going to show you the people and the church. I'm going to show you who's there to
Yes.
help you, but I'm not going to give them to you until you go.
Yes.
So wow.
100%.
Okay. I think we just walked into something, right? That yes, that was the revelation. Like you weren't going to find those people until you showed up. And then here's the person that's going to handle the car. And then here's the people who's going to help with your music career. Here's the singers. Here's the producer.
Yep.
But you don't get any of that if you don't take the first step.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you said it perfectly, and that's what he has continued to do with like producers, or like I'm working with a publicist now, and they've opened just through all the puzzle pieces. God putting it on my heart to write in certain songs, and all these puzzle pieces that God put together, and then providing the right people to connect me, and just growing my team. And now my best friend is my drummer. I met her like a month and a half after moving to Nashville. And so we've been like, we're both in it together, and God, like you said, providing that Caleb, uh, Abraham and Moses, just the list goes on.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so now I love, because you just mentioned the songwriting and now you have the people. Let's talk a little bit about the story behind the writing, because I mean, this one particular single that we're mentioning is, I mean, I hope I'm not going too far. I would say this is like where you've seen God like really bless it and like opened you up to this whole nother thing. The conversation I was going to go back to, and the one where I like want to just pat myself on the back a little, because you
Yeah.
really did, you inspired me just by following God in gigs when you would send me messages and just say, hey, this is what I'm going through. And I would follow you, like I'm liking everything you.
Yeah.
But one thing I remember, we had a short conversation, then we were like doing a little beta test of the coaching program. And I
Mhm.
remember I said, hey, you got to find what you're going to be about, like something
Mhm.
that you're going to be about to kind of distinguish your career. And I'm no publicist and I'm no marketer, but
Yeah.
I do remember that little conversation. And all of a sudden I see you pop up with anti-bullying, made to be.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, she found it.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. And again, it's no
Yeah.
credit for me, but I
No,
just realized that that's what you did somewhere. You found the thing that says, hey, this is what I'm about. This is what God can speak through me artistically and creatively.
yes.
So tell me, like, number one, like, how did you even find that? Like, when did that become the thing? And that, was it just a download? Was it something you always wanted to write about or sing about?
Yeah. Well, I do remember that, and thank you so much. Like, you continue to make such a difference in my life, so I really
Oh,
appreciate it for
so
sure.
it's my honor and pleasure. Again, I can't take any credit, but I just, again, like, I want, now you got
Yeah.
to tell me like how it worked, because I
Yeah.
didn't know it was going to work. It worked for you. So
Definitely.
how
Yeah.
did it happen?
I know, right? So, it was. I I remember in 2018. Also, I was speaking to a man. One of my he was my manager at the time, and he said, "I encourage you, kind of like what you were saying." He's like, "I would encourage you to maybe find a nonprofit that you can team up with. A lot of artists do that." And so I took what he said and I prayed about it, and I was like, "Lord, I want it to be authentic. I don't want to do it just for publicity. I want it, and I don't want to just do it because other people are doing it, other artists are doing it. I want it to be real. So, Lord, show me what I'm supposed to do, who I'm supposed to partner with." Like, I literally like try to pray about everything. Uh,
Yes.
yeah. So, combination with what you said, a lot of people just, God just leads you and guides you as you're going through, what you're going through, and your pursuits, your dreams, and all that. So I had been working at this restaurant that I didn't know would come hand in hand with what ended up being my message, but I was working at this restaurant, and I worked there 2017, 2018, and 2019. I worked there for 3 years, and I had been really, really like outcasted. I had been picked on by my managers. Like I was the black sheep, and I've always been the black sheep. I was the black sheep in my family for a while. I've experienced bullying in like elementary school for my teacher. I remember my eighth grade teacher actually in middle school. She would pick on me and just like pick me apart. Um,
Mm.
on into high school and adulthood, which is when I was working at that restaurant. So I wrote Made to Be. I had been going through a lot of stuff at that restaurant, and my manager would just pick on me and would not treat me fairly. Like he kept putting me on the bottom, like part of the seating chart. So basically you would move your way up based on like your performance and your time there. And I was there for 3 years, and you know, I was working as great as I could, which, you know, I'm not like bragging, but I was putting my whole heart
You're
into
doing
it.
your job. You're doing the
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. And there was no reason. And I had a meeting with him and everything. And so long story short, I just, you know, as an artist, like, you know, just expressing myself and just really go. And I could have just quit, but I didn't feel God leading me to quit. As weird as it may sound, but it kind of makes sense looking back, because he wanted to use my pain into part of my purpose. And so I used, so I wrote that song, not planning anything. I didn't even think about, oh, anti-bullying, it's going to be an anti-bullying song. I'm going to write the song in order to be an anti-bullying song. Not that I think that's wrong to do, but just the way it happened for me. And so I wrote the song, and God just showed me like anti-bullying. Like I have been, that's what hatred, bullying is just hatred. And I've experienced so much of it. I know what rejection feels like so well. Since I was a kid, I know what it feels like to be lonely. I know what it feels like to feel like there's no hope. And I have such a deep desire to bring that message of hope and to bring that message of purpose, and to embrace our differences, and to say, hey, God made you different on purpose. And then also not just to leave it there, but to say, not only did God make us different, but our value is actually found not in what we do, not in how we look, not in how well we do something, not in how different we are, or not in how similar we are. Although all those things are real, ultimately our value needs to be found in whose we are. And that's what got me through. Because that's what God showed me. That's what he showed me was the answer when I was going through my bullying as an adult, because I was a believer then, and he was showing me like, hey, your manager's treating you like dirt. Doesn't mean that you are dirt. It doesn't change who you are based on how people treat you, for better or for worse. So yeah, it kind of just all unfolded like that. God just kind of showed me as it was happening. And then that's when I created Friends Forever Club.
That's so beautiful, because you didn't, as you said, have to look for the thing. The thing was, you just said it, like your pain became your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And because you knew your pain was shared, right?
Mm-hmm.
You weren't the first person. That's what I think happens to a lot of us. And that we can go very deep into this course. This anything I talk about in God Engaged in Creative Life never is just creatives. It's never. It's always just human beings. Like we're all going through this. So the fact that, you know, you were going through this, even at your job, you weren't talking about being bullied as a musician, as a singer, or even as, you know, in terms of anything with church and church hurt and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? There's so many different ways and levels you can talk about how people are mistreated, but you were simply talking about something that relates to everyone. And it was your story and it was someone else's story. And so clearly it resonated, not just with you, and God was clearly kind of positioning you to say, hey, other people need to hear your story specifically, not necessarily from somebody else that went through it. They need to hear it through this song, through this particular beat, this video. And I think one of the things that creators, I'll just speak for myself, we overthink that. Like you try to craft the message and like, oh, well, I need to be this and be that. It's almost like anti what your song is about, right? Because your song is about not trying to be what other people make or trying to make it be, versus what creators, a lot of us, we're told by the industry, you have to be this.
It's so true. Yeah, it's like coming down to realizing like, okay, who am I fearing? Like, who am I putting my hope in? Am I trusting that God knows that he created me on purpose and for his purposes? Like, because when I think about that, when I remember that, then I don't have to be so dependent on people. I don't have to be so vulnerable. I'm not freaking out. I need to do what they want me to do. It's like, no, hold up. The only one that matters is you're doing what God wants you to do. And he's going to take care of everything. You don't have to worry about it. He is the Almighty. He's the one that's sovereign. Nobody else is sovereign but God. So just really like acknowledging who he is what I found to be the answer.
That's beautiful. Now I got to ask you, because you're now doing a lot more spots, a lot more media. I see you here. I see, you know, this news outlet and this thing. And so now you've gotten the message out. Tell me how you're navigating that very same issue of now you have to show up. I mean, how much of your, very transparently, this is God and Gigs, how much of your faith is going into, I mean, clearly it's in the song, but it's also sometimes you're going into non-faith, obviously, environments when you're on the TV. And so how are you navigating that? Like sharing who you are as a believer. You've been totally vocal about it. There's nothing hiding, but
Yeah.
you could also say that this is not in the box of a, church song.
Right.
So how are you navigating that now that you're spreading the message beyond just, the Christian world?
Yeah. Well, I guess it kind of goes back to just figuring out as I go.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Still having to walk by faith. There's always going to be an opportunity to walk by faith,
Mhm.
no matter where you are in your career, your ministry. Like, okay, like I've accomplished this, or I've accomplished this goal, and it's not like, okay, cool, I'm set, like I'm good on my faith, like we're all good here. There's always things that have come up and present themselves, because it's a journey. And as far as like not really fitting into like a like traditional Christian artist.
Right.
And then, but like you said, going into the secular world and speaking on these outlets that are not Christian based. Um, I try to just I try to speak with understanding and like compassion.
Hmm.
Um, and I really want people to know, even with like people that I meet, like face to face. I want them to know, like first, that I care, and before they know, like I used to be very like, I'm a Christian. Hey, nice to meet you. I'm NEDY. I'm a Christian. Like, hey, I'm NEDY. I'm a Christian. Hey, I'm NEDY. Jesus is the way, the truth, and life. Hey, I'm NEDY. Believe in Jesus. And I used to do that
Like,
so
it's
much.
like, I mean, I just see you like holding the Bible, like, hi. And everyone's like, no way. I got like, I don't know what your Jesus, but if he looks like that, I'm running the other way. And you're like, you're sincere. Like, you're
Yeah,
sincere. There's no way you were coming like that, like not
yeah,
trying to drive them away, but
I know, right? I used to be very, very like super like right away tell people I'm a Christian. And
Mm,
not that I think there's anything wrong with that, but with time, um, I want people to know, like when they find out, like, oh yeah, NEDY, she's a Christian. You know what? That makes sense. Like she's very like sincere. She listens to me, like she cares. She said she was praying for me. Like when I talk to her, I feel like I'm not alone. And like,
mm,
oh, like, huh, like maybe that's who Jesus is then. That's what I want them to correlate to, as opposed to like, I want to kind of prove myself to them, the genuineness of my faith by my actions rather than like by my words. Like, so demonstrating the love of God before I declare it. And I think that God has a place for it, like evangelists who they declare, and like God has that anointing on people. So I'm not diminishing that. But I believe that it's also very effective for those who are maybe not called to be evangelists to demonstrate that love of God before necessarily declaring it, and seeing the genuineness of your faith. That's kind of what I try to apply to situations where I meet people face to face, or whether I'm on like the outlets that you said there are secular. I don't know if that kind of goes back to what we were talking about, but
no, it absolutely does. And what you is so transparent, what you said, that you want people to see and feel the love before. And immediately the verse came to mind, is that they shall know you are my disciples if you have love for one another, not if you preach the message, not if there's a Bible sticker on your car.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, that's
yeah,
not what Jesus told us would be. He said that by the fruits you shall know them, and then by their love. So everything you just talked about has nothing to do with declaring up front, hey, this is a Christian artist, or hey, this is a Christian song. Like there's two or three mentors I have, and people that have, that follow, that are obviously have platforms. That's what they share. Jordan
wow,
Rayner, Matt Tomney, like these are all people like I've been following, and that's all they talk about, is that we
wow,
should not have to tell people that we
yeah,
follow Jesus for them to understand and know that we follow Jesus.
yes,
And even God and gigs, be very straight up, even though God and gigs, like God could be many things, like people see God
right,
as anything. So I've been, almost sometimes felt guilty that I didn't put Christian like on every label. And then I realized people like
wow,
you find me anyway, because they get it. Like as soon as you recognize, like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, this is what he's talking about. I know this stuff, but I don't lead with it because I do want people to see it as faith. But we've had Muslims on the show, we've had Jewish people on the show, because again, we're showing love first,
Yep.
And then, if in fact, I do get an opportunity, like you said,
Yep.
um, to share my faith in a more direct way, it'll be because the door was opened. Every conversion started with a conversation.
Right.
Women at the well, name a million of them in the
There
Bible,
you
right?
go.
It always starts with a conversation. So I love the fact you're starting the conversation with bullying. Let's go back to that one thing.
Yes.
Um, since this is the message now, like, what do you hope happens starting the nonprofit? Like, what are your overall goals for starting this? Because it's a big undertaking that you're doing now, leading
Yeah.
not just your career, but
Yeah.
leading like a platform. Like, this is a big thing for you. What are you
Yeah.
looking forward to? What are you hoping to happen?
Um, it's so funny because I didn't really like realize or like kind of know what I was doing when I started it. And like months later, I'm like, I just started a nonprofit. Like, do I think that I have the time for that or the money for that? No.
That's
But
why. That's how God does that. God
that's
says,
how he
"No,
does it.
you don't." Exactly.
Exactly. And my hope, I think when I got saved, it was like, oh, and now I have a message with my music. Now, before I was just sad all the time. And there was no hope. And then I got saved and I became like David. I'm like, man, I have so much, I have sorrows, and I feel pain so deeply. And I felt pain at such a young age. My parents got divorced. I was a daddy's girl, felt rejection from my dad. He got remarried, had 2 kids, felt replaced continuously
Mm,
on and on throughout the years. And I got saved and I had a heart for people who had felt rejection. I was engaged and he left me for another girl. Rejected again, grew up with a best friend. Our friendship didn't work out. Rejection, feeling this rejection so real. And then, um, and then with the bullying, and then thinking, wow, the common denominator here is wanting the people to know that, hey, you're gonna be okay.
yeah.
I have needed someone to tell me that so many times, like, you're gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay, because we freak out sometimes. And so my main goal is to bring, I don't even know what order, bring hope, the hope of Jesus Christ. The only way that we can get hope is through Jesus, real hope. My other main goal is to bring purpose. And because he's turned my morning into dancing, like literally.
Mm. I
I
was
was
reading Isaiah this morning. You got me like just
were
dancing in
you?
my chair. Yes, I was right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. After I was engaged and I was so brokenhearted, I was so sad for so long. And then God just renewed my desire to do music. And I went from a singer-songwriter to a performer, just naturally God guiding me. And I just wanted to dance. I had a desire to just move around on stage, to express myself through movement. And so he literally turned my morning into dancing. And I want to tell people, like, God is so good and the best is yet to come. We got to surrender to him and put our trust in him continuously. But yeah, I want to just bring all that through my music and through my ministry for sure.
Well, it's coming through, and that's the one word I would say is that you talk about morning to dancing, joy, right? The oil of joy for the morning that we used to feel. Such a beautiful picture, and that's what I see and feel when I see you.
That's
It's so funny you said the sad girl thing. I'm like, her? What are you talking about? Like, Nettie, no way. Like, she's never cried a bit in her life. But I love the thought that came to mind. Like, you're like, who are you talking about? Yes, that's what I feel when I read and I see. Like, I just felt, what? Here's a key. We're just going to jump on this. Sorry, we're going on our soapbox, y'all.
no,
We're going to
no,
get
no
behind the
need
pulpit for a second.
to.
The idea that joy does not equal happiness, like, that's
Mhm.
the difference. I think we equate joy with happiness, meaning I have to feel like joy is a feeling when joy is really a
Right.
decision. When the Bible
Yes.
says I will rejoice, it doesn't mean I will feel like rejoicing. I
Amen.
will rejoice. I choose joy.
Yes,
And
exactly.
it's simple as that. It's like, okay, yes, you lost your car. Yes, you got a car accident. Yes, we got COVID. Yes, this thing happened or whatever.
Right.
And yet we choose joy. And that's the thing that I think God allows us, even as creatives. And now talk about your music. When I see you dancing and I feel it, but it's not because necessarily you felt it. That's probably really cool. Like, you don't
Yeah.
have to feel, even as a musician, as a singer, I'm sure when you get up on stage, you don't always feel.
No. I don't. It's so true. It's so right on. Man, I love that. It definitely is a decision, and there are times where even though it's like my passion, I'm like, I don't feel like doing this. Like, and God's blessing me so much, it's giving me an opportunity, and like I don't feel like doing this. But love is a choice too, you know. Like some of
Mm,
the great things are decisions, and just because it doesn't feel right or it's not easy in the moment, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it.
right. Exactly. So, and like you just said, love and enjoy, all these are fruits of the spirit, like we, as we know, but
Yeah.
there are also, we have to decide to put them on. We have to decide to take them on. As I start to light up here, as the sun comes on, like I feel like I'm glowing as like an angel
Oh
now.
yeah.
So yeah, the idea that you have taken this on, that you took on from moving all the way across the country, from going through the situations with your parents, and just, I really, the other word that comes to mind, again, in my ADD world, is overcomer. Like that's
Mm.
what I really feel like your message overall comes, because you talked about rejection and getting over all these things, but eventually we are more than conquerors, right? That's our identity.
Yep.
It is not the defeated, it is not the beat down, it's not the head tail and not the head, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So just tell me, in a sense, like, what, again, same thing with your nonprofit, but also in your music, like, what do you want people to feel, think, believe after they've seen you or hear you perform?
Um, Inspired. Yeah, I love that overcomer for sure. And like one of the scriptures that came to mind when you were speaking about being an overcomer and our identity coming from Jesus is I can do all things through him who gives
Yep.
me strength, you know? And that is the only reason why I'm able to keep walking, keep moving forward. But yeah, I want people to feel inspired. I want them to feel empowered. And that's a word. Power is a word that God's put on my heart. For since I remember 2018, just seeing that word stand out in scripture so much.
Mhm.
And that's where the lightning bolt, the symbol in my logo. So I actually got it tattooed. So I have a cross.
What?
Yeah. I have a cross and a lightning bolt, not lightning bolt. And the lightning bolt symbolizes God's power. So I want people to, because that's what he put on my heart. Yeah. I, I think it was kind of like, Lord, are you wanting to showcase your power, or not even showcase it? This sounds kind of weird. Just give people a little kind of
A
taste,
demonstration.
a
Yeah.
demonstration. Just, but
Yeah.
I don't want to give myself that much, like just like a little taste of God's demonstration of power through me, because he's awesome. But yeah, I want them to feel empowered and inspired, to look to their creator, to something bigger than me, something bigger than ourselves. Kind of want them to realize like it all makes sense. Like I want them to look up to their creator.
Gosh, this is why again, you're still one of my favorite people. Like, even doesn't matter whether you're in Nashville and if you're in California, like, I'm just gonna be like, where, I need a dose of NEDY today. I need a dose of NEDY.
You're so sweet.
Like,
Thank you.
I need,
Likewise.
yes, I need a dose. So tell everybody, number one, how they can find you, because I'm sure God has way more in store for you, and they're going to want to hear about you. And so tell them, number one, how they can find you on all the socials and stuff like that. And then if you have any parting words for an artist who is where you were, who is, where do I go next? God is calling me out. Oh my gosh, you know, do I move to Nashville? Do I move to LA? Do I do these things? You've been there. So just leave some parting, since this is mostly for our creative friends, let them know, like, something that would help them if they are feeling what you used to feel.
Definitely. Well, you guys can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, my website as well at official NEDY. So if you go to officialnetty.com, it also links you to my Facebook and Instagram and all that. If you type in official NEDY, just one word, on Facebook or Instagram, I'll pop up and I'll follow you back. Feel free to send me a message if you're going through something, if you're going through bullying or someone that has been bullied. I like just try to be there as a friend. And we have our nonprofit Instagram and Facebook as well at Friends for Ever Club. And then our website is friendsforeverclub.com. And then for anybody who's listening, like if you guys are just wanting to know that you're on the right track, God's always going to want you to know his will. Of course, he has his timing. And he just shows a little bit because he wants us to take that step of faith. I don't think it's like a cookie cutter, like, situation where everybody who needs to do who's has it on their heart to do music is supposed to do A, B, and C. Like you got to move to Nashville, or you got to move to LA, or you got to move to Chicago, whatever the case is. But the answers are found through, prayer. And for me, it wasn't like I could have moved in 2018, but I moved in 2019. That's because it was God's timing. So maybe it's God's timing for you to move there now or later or whatnot. But we can just rest assured that if we're looking to Him, He's going to tell us what He wants from us. And there's a line that I wrote. It's, as long as I'm in God's hands, I'm missing nothing. And so it's just kind of to rest assured that God's will and God's hand is really all we need.
Oh, so beautiful. And again, I know you've inspired. You wanted to leave people inspired and empowered. You just did that.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, they're saving this episode right now. They're going to your website. They're like, okay, I need some more power and inspiration. And
Yeah.
you know what? Just as a quick aside, this is really, again, why we stay connected with artists like you, because the power is in all of us. That treasure you're talking about is hidden in earthen vessels, so that the powers of God are not of us. But it's because we stay connected in communities, because we stay connected to people that love God. And that's why, I'm so appreciative of you. I'll say it straight up again. One of our first real people to give God gigs a chance, and all the community stuff and the coaching that I was trying. You gave me a chance. You found something here, and I'm always going to be appreciative of you for doing that. And I just know God's got even more in store for you, my friend.
Thank you, Alan. I'm honored. Thank you very much.